So imagine if I told you that you could make $120,000 working only 52 hours of the whole year. What would you say?
How would you do that?
Well, we're about to find out.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is the podcast From Darkness into Light. And our first guest is going to be Khairul Alam. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Khairul.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. Born and bred in New York. Moved to Connecticut when I was really young. And I call Connecticut my home. After I moved over here, I got into sports when I was really young, about 6-7 years old. I pretty much spent my childhood in Connecticut playing sports, not focusing too much on academics. But as the years went on, and I delved into sports, I took academics a little bit seriously because my goal was to play college basketball.
Okay.
And so I then moved to, after college though, moved to Virginia for work purposes. And then now I'm back doing some good things, inshallah.
Okay. And what did you notice the difference between the Virginia community and the Connecticut communities? What's the biggest difference?
So there's a lot of differences. But one thing I want to say, because I've lived in New York, Connecticut, Virginia. I traveled all over the states. But when it comes to Washington, D.C. specifically, right, it's like the hub of all professionals. Like, I feel like everywhere you go in the United States, there's a cap to a community. So growing up in Manchester, Connecticut, a beautiful community, right? But you speak to certain people and you want to do certain things, there's always a cap.
Yeah.
You hit the ceiling, right?
Okay.
But when it comes to Washington, D.C., because everybody's flying in there, is Washington, D.C. When it comes to professionals, when it comes to Muslims in politics, when it comes to Muslims doing great things, nonprofits, even the elderly, retired 65 to 70-year-old uncle at the masjid, he has like 2-3 nonprofits, and they're just doing amazing work. So the DMV area, when it comes to that, like, I just felt like it's an enlightenment. You spend time with the community, and when you move there, you're always pushed to do great things.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And so you're a life coach for the youth.
Yes.
And you're also doing this great project, this MYCA. So let's start off with, tell us a little bit about your life coaching. What do you do? Which age groups do you target? Absolutely.
So a little bit about the life coach first, and then we'll go into the age group and what it actually is. So I started this Muslim youth life coaching, specifically, the name is Dawahlicious. And I started this, the reason I started this is because, to tell you the truth, I was always a life coach before I knew I was a life coach.
Okay.
I was always a life coach before starting this business. Ever since I was young, people would tell me, you know what, we've had great conversations. I think you should do something with people, or like mentorship and whatnot. And some of the greatest conversations I've ever had, they're not recorded. So as I grew and as I went into, my professional work and whatnot, I always had this in the back of my mind that, you know what, I should start listening to the people, because sometimes people, they see something in yourself that you don't see yourself. And why am I saying this? Because it all came naturally. I just had to, when it comes to logistics, it's just about making an LLC and then going forward with that. But I was always life coaching. But there was one incident that really made me think about doing this professionally. What was it? There was this sister in Roanoke. She was a 17-year-old girl. And her parents had called me to speak to her about certain issues. Now, I was going from Northern Virginia, driving down about a couple of hours. By the time I got to Roanoke, Virginia, the sister had killed herself.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but this is what sparked my interest in, because I thought about.
So that was a setback. That sparked your interest in life coaching.
Correct. That was it made me realize that I'm only one person. I have so many people reaching out to me, so many parents, so many youth, and if I don't do this in a more efficient way, there's going to be issues, because now to me, life coaching is life and death now, right? And so that really sparked my interest in doing this online. And so back to life coaching, Dawahlicious LLC was created about 3-4 years ago, and it mostly focuses. We have an academy where we focus on kids from 6 to 18 year olds, and we have a specific Muslim youth life coaching program where we teach them the clear Quran. That's the book that
you've worked on translating that.
Correct. I'm one of the editors of that,
Mashallah.
and shout out to Mustafa Khattab in the clear Quran, and
Mashallah.
we just finished the clear Sirah. So that's a part of the program, and then I do other life coaching, pretty much one-on-one for marriage coaching, cybersecurity coaching, spirituality coaching, all of that within this.
Yeah, so I've gone through your life coaching, and it's not just 14-year-olds, because I was in my early 20s back then, and we went through some nice sessions where you were mapping out my life goals and things like that, and it was really helpful. But I want you to speak about, what is the biggest setback that a lot of these youth have when they come to you with life coaching? What is that one thing that you need to help them with for them to find their vision or their goal in life?
Okay, so there, back in the days, like if you look at certain masajid, I've heard this, like in Turkey, they would have their quotes in their masjids, in their masajid. They would say, "We will not judge a fish by its ability to fly and a bird by its ability to swim."
Okay.
And what that meant is that the youth, sometimes we force them to do stuff that they're not made for. Some people are made to make their brains work intellectually.
Okay.
And some people are made to move their bodies. And so in a day and age where, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, because the docs know the best and these professionals, but if all the children are being diagnosed with ADHD and we're not looking more deeply into why is this person fidgeting in school and why can't they sit in the right position and whatnot, it's because perhaps Allah created them with the ability to move their body more than their intellectual brains.
Yeah.
And so why am I saying this? But many kids come to me, many youth come to me, and many parents come to me with limiting beliefs. But the reason they have limiting beliefs about themselves is that they've been put into the wrong environment.
Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this, if you've heard about him in Scattered Minds.
Okay.
Talks about ADHD, and it's more of a societal issue, and more just like you're mentioning. It's like
Yes.
these kids aren't fitting the societal norms. They're not sitting down. They're not scoring well on their exams. But maybe they were made for something different. So that's kind of what you're going through. You're facing in your coaching.
Correct. So the main thing that they come to me is about direction in life.
So these kids are saying, I'm failing at the things that my parents want me, but then you're
Correct.
telling them that maybe you were made for something different.
Correct. They come with plethora of issues. Okay. Majority of the issues I deal with is relationship problems. Okay. So whether it be, issues with their parents or parents having issues with their youth, that's what I deal with the most. Right.
Okay.
And I often say if I had a superpower, it would be to go around the world and fixing these issues. But because you'll realize very quickly it's one of the hardest things to reconcile. Relationships.
Okay. And why? Because we were speaking in my sessions, and you told me that you told me your life is like a pizza pie. You got 12 pieces, remember?
Yes.
And you told me why you keep focusing on that one piece, whether it's that family relationship that's not working out, or the marital relationship that's not working out, or the career that's not working out. You told me, why are you focusing on that one piece that's not working out and you're figuring about the whole pie? Why do you think people do that? And is this a common problem that the youth go through?
It's a psychological thing. I would say, let's say you have a blank slate, let's say you have a wall and you have one, it's painted white and you have one black dot on it. You're going to focus on that and you're going to forget everything else.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how the human was wired.
Oh, wow.
So when it comes to human psychology, we focus on the negative. You have you're wearing a fantastic suit and you're focused on that one spot because perfection is something that we yearn for.
Exactly. So we're more prone. We're going to focus. We're going to react. The utility of negative impacting things on our life is higher than the positive utility.
Correct. And what we need to do is switch that mindset, right? And that's why, I don't want to go off tangent, but, recently a parent came to me and said that my child was bullied in school. And it's a 6-year-old child. He's actually a very good looking, mashallah, handsome child. However, he's from a different culture. His background is different than the usual kids in school. And so he gets bullied in school for his skin color and whatnot. Okay. So there's two takes to this. In the Western, from the Western philosophical or Western point of view, when your child comes home and you try to make up for what he's been through in school, you would say, give yourself affirmations. So before you go to sleep, say to yourself, or
I'm
the mom
enough,
says,
I am good.
the mom says to the daughter, say to yourself, I'm a princess 100 times before you. So she repeats herself, I'm a princess, I'm a princess. But then she goes to school the next day, then she gets bullied for being fat. Okay.
Oh wow.
So guess what we're doing here? We're giving them unrealistic solutions.
We're helping them being delusional. Basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, what is the Islamic mindset, or what is that? How can a parent life coach their child in this? They should do what we believe the Quran and the Sunnah, encourage us to do, is to, show shukr. So you say to your child, how many kids don't have fingers or hands or working feet or legs.
That's back to the positive mentality where you're focusing on the positive things.
Gratefulness.
Okay.
Because now you're not telling them something that they
true.
know is not true. Because children, two people, I always say this, two types of people in this world that you can never fake it with. It's the people in jail and it's the youth.
Why are the people in jail?
Because the people in jail have been through a lot. And some of them are convicted with having never done anything incorrect. But then when they go into that life, they become a number. Like Malcolm X said in one of the chapters in his biography, that I was just a number. And I forgot actually what my name was, because the main goal for us was to lose our identity. Yeah. And they do that by assigning us a number. So it was a 6-digit number.
That's
they were
a really
assigned. Good
point. So would you say that the loss of Muslim identity is a major problem for the Muslim youth?
100%. That's one of the, so out of the 23% of people or kids, when they turn into adults, they leave Islam here in the States. That's what the number was, according to Family Youth Institute and the Yaqeen Institute. But if you look at the top reasons as to why, one of the top reasons is identity crisis. And they're one person in school, another person at home, and another person at work, perhaps, wow. Right? And so this is a huge issue, the identity crisis. So imagine now if you are being told something that is just delusional, even as a child. Like, if I'm a princess, then why are they calling me fat? Yeah. Or if I'm so good looking there. So then you bring him back, and you bring him back to reality. And reality is that you should be grateful to what Allah has given you. You're able to smell, you're able to touch, you're able to walk. You know how many children are in wheelchairs. When you say this to your children, the story where someone was upset that he didn't have a bike, and he looked in front of him, the person didn't have legs to walk on. Mm-hmm. And then the person, it was looking in front of him, and he barely had anything, right? So I think
the glass half full mentality.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so for one more question for the life coaching. I remember one thing you told me during the coaching. I don't want to ask you this question, so I won't tell it to you. So we'll see if if it's still the most important thing, right?
Okay.
You told me that before you set a goal, there is one thing that you do right after you set that goal to substantially increase the chances of that goal to actually occur. What was that? Remember we were sitting together and I was telling you my goals, and you're like,
we've shared so many stuff together. I don't know. I don't recall that one.
You told me this, that the most important thing, or not the most important thing, the thing that will increase the chances of you accomplishing your goal is writing it down.
Okay, absolutely.
So you
documentation.
Did that with me. That's what you did with me. You had me write down my goal, and then we did it over and over again. So just take us through, tell us why this is so important first of all, and then take us through maybe a quick rundown of how you get these clients and how you transform their lives.
Yeah, it's important because the first thing you're gonna battle is your ego. As soon as you tell some people, write it down, raise your hands. What do you think about which? The first thing that kicks in is I'm just for whatever reason, right? It's like I'm too good to pick up my pen and write it down. I have it in my head. It's not about your skill set. It's about accountability. And if you see it in front of you, that's why they say sticky notes on your fridge. That's why, to read a book, open it up and read what's, to have documentation of, the whole, still, no matter how digitalized we get, we are about documentation. It's in the Quran as well, right? When you're trading with someone, when you're doing business with someone, when you're taking a loan,
you have to
write it down. Yeah. Right? There must be some wisdom, right? And so it's very important because first off, it's a spirituality thing that you're fighting your nafs and your ego.
When you write this down.
When you're writing this down, it's like, I'm too good for this, but I'm still going to write it down.
Are you kind of like actually transforming your idea into reality when you're writing it down?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا.
Yeah.
right? And so if we write it down, then we will remember it because the pen and paper is helping us. But if
There's
we
some sort of accountability.
exactly
Okay.
right, but if it's in your mind, like you don't remember half the stuff in your mind unless you go to prayer, and then shaitan comes to you and tells you
Okay.
that nickel is right in that corner of the couch, and
Okay.
this is what you know why, because there are certain moments that we remember these things, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying when it comes to accountability,
Yeah.
when you can look at the notes, right? And I say that and a lot of people say this too, right? Like the du'at, and say if you're gonna teach for 5 hours, make sure you take 10 hours intake, 10 hours of knowledge, right? So if you're going to produce something in life, right, make sure you have a paper full of notes and goals and milestones and whatnot, right? Because then you can go back and be like, check mark, check, I did it. No, I didn't do it, right? You see what I'm saying? I have a weekly thing on my notepad.
Okay, I see. So
where I check off everything. Like today, I need to do 10 things. Let's see.
Okay, I see. I mean, a lot of people have written about this. There's a book, The One Thing, actually talks about writing down your goals, time blocking. And I realized when you actually write down that I'm going to be doing this between 12 and 1, you're more likely to do it than when in your head you'll delay it, right?
Yeah,
or you will forget that you even marked that, you blocked that time for that. So take me through the transformation that you hope to accomplish. A young man or a young woman below the age 18, 12 to 18, right?
Yes.
They're coming to you. They don't have an identity. They still want to figure out what they want to do in life.
Correct.
Just take us quickly from a macroscopic perspective through the stages that you would take them through, and what is the product of your coaching?
Correct. Absolutely. Great question. So Allah says in the Quran, هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. Like we have created everything. We have created for you everything. Okay. So now when someone comes to me and says to me, there's nothing to do in life, or I don't know what I'm going to do, or I don't know if I have a purpose or direction, because the universal purpose for all of us is, as Allah says in the Quran, that we created you. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. So that's a universal purpose. All of us have the same goal into worshiping Allah. But then there's an individual purpose. And that purpose might take a whole lifetime to figure out. And that purpose might need some sitting down and reflecting, right? مَنْ عَرَفَ نَفْسَهُ عَرَفَ اللَّهُ. Whoever knows himself knows Allah. But it takes a whole lifetime to know yourself. That's why some of the scholars say, if you want to go far in life, and you don't have to travel physically, but sit with yourself for 5 minutes, and you might find out where you're going. Right? Because there's so much noise and whatnot. How are we supposed to filter out these noise? And so if you were to ask me first, before we go into how the transformation takes place, you want to ask yourself, what is Muslim life coaching, Muslim youth life coaching, right? Life coaching, to me, a Muslim youth life coach, this person will become your professional friend. So you have the best of both worlds. They understand who you are. They feel you. They know where you're coming from. At the same time, they're giving you professional advice. Most of the times, there's a dichotomy between this, like professionalism and family and friends that give us advice. And it's not necessarily true that the advice that's coming from them, even though they might be sincere and they have well intentions, they might be the worst advice for us. And then when it comes to professionalism, we have this work-life balance thing that they talk about, but we are usually it's dunya matters.
You're lacking a connection sometimes with
exactly.
That person. Okay.
Now if you look at the big folks on YouTube, or and surprisingly, when I started Muslim Youth Life Coaching, I didn't see any YouTube videos on Islamic life coaching, Muslim youth life coaching, and whatnot. Right now, if you look back, right, and just go on the videos and just check out when they came out, you'll see 6 months ago, a year ago. Now it's just booming, Muslim youth life coach and whatnot, right? But before, you had Jay Shetty, you had Tony Robbins, you had Eben Pagan, you had all these folks, right? They're great, they're amazing, but what are they calling to? The nafs. It's all about
self-affirmation things.
Exactly, self-development. And when you do too much of that, it becomes nafsi. But there was not a organization or a life coaching, or a business that was saying, you know what? Back to Allah and the Prophet alayhi salam. Back to the two things that we know are haqq for sure, God and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know that as Muslims, right? So how do we not blend, mesh, and mix life coaching with the good stuff in the Western philosophy and in psychology and whatnot? And I thought to myself, wait a second, we have so much content from the Quran, the Sunnah, and it's guidance. So let's take some of the principles of the West, the things that work, some from sociology, psychology, anthropology. Let's put it together, and we take Islam and we mesh it together, and then
And you've done some social work, right?
I've worked as a mental health counselor in a hospital. I've done youth directing work.
Okay.
As I mentioned to you, I've done work at the community level, alhamdulillah, individual level, right? And so I learned that people just want to be heard,
Yeah.
right? And you don't necessarily have to give them therapeutic advice. That's the difference between coaching and therapy. Therapy will give you medicinal advice, and this is what you need to do to have. But coaching could be, your voice is amazing. I heard you the other day, and I'm going to keep you accountable because next week I want to hear you fix this part of your tajweed and that, right? And so now you just become someone who's motivated someone just by saying something very simple, but they can from here, all they need to do is hear that from someone else. Perhaps
that makes sense. I've had a few Quran teachers. Some of them would fit the model of the psychologist where there's not friends.
Yeah.
And they correct you, and sometimes they put you down, right?
Yes.
They don't mean to, but they're not your friend.
Yes.
So you don't flourish with them, right?
Yeah. You don't relate to them.
You don't relate with them, and then you have that friend who's also a teacher at the same time.
Yeah.
And he says something like, maybe you're going too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You're sounding great, and that is the best of both worlds. That will actually help you accomplish the goal because you're getting the empathy and the professional advice at the same time.
Correct.
So if I'm a young man or woman and I want to do something for the ummah,
yes,
but I don't know what it is and I'm kind of lost.
Yes.
I come to you.
Yes.
And you'll help me figure that out.
Yeah. Well, first, what we have to do is we have to talk about your passion. Okay. What comes natural to you? What are other people telling about you? Right. Okay. Sometimes you listen to yourself. Sometimes you listen to what your parents say. Sometimes you listen to what your friends are saying. Bring everything together. Don't limit yourself. Right. And that's why we need the notebook.
Yeah.
That's why we, okay, this friend said this on this date. Okay. My sister's been telling me ever since I was young, I would be a great teacher. Okay. On this date, something happened to me, and naturally, I was life coaching at in the university. I was life coaching in cars waiting in traffic. I was life coaching when I went to Stop and Shop for shopping for my mom. I was life coaching everywhere before I became a life coach. And the thing is, you just got to go and do it. Yeah. Right. But certain things come naturally to you. Other things you got to push for.
So you're going to help them figure out their natural talents and
amplify
them.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Right. And once we figure that out, once we figure out what their natural talent is, what they love, what they're passionate about, then we figure out their circumstance and their reality, right? At this point, you're a 17-year-old child, and these are your resources. So if you have $1,000, I would say you can invest in stocks, or you can invest in a language, or invest in this type of program where you can build your skills. And now if we come to specifically how if I were to make the next generation of Muslim youth life coaches come to fruition, right? I have certain steps I could give you right now, which I would think would be amazing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because one of the things we have to realize is that it's not just about you, coaching while you're alive. It's like who's gonna carry your legacy? Obviously, we have that question, and are they gonna do it the way that what have you left behind so they can take that blueprint? And so firstly, I want to start with this whole financial thing. Okay. Does your passion take care of your paychecks? I mean, does your passion become your paychecks and take care of your bills? Right. A lot of people, one question I ask in my life coaching is that if fear wasn't a thing, what would you be doing right now? That's a huge question, because you can get to know a person for them saying, I'd write a book if I had time. I'd do mentoring programs. I'd be a basketball coach if I didn't have to worry about my bills.
You would just pursue a completely different life.
Completely different life.
Passion, okay.
And I also want people to know that work is not supposed to be it's not supposed to be fun and something you love. Depends on, this is something I learned in life when giving motivational talks and khutubs and whatnot, that not everybody's in a circumstance. If someone has 3 children, one of them has cancer, God forbid, Allah protects all of us, right? And you're giving a beautiful motivational lecture on how to do how to create something so great. From their perspective, they're just carrying on with life, providing for their family. They don't have time for all that, right? Yeah. So you have to understand people's circumstances and their realities, and then you have to go based on that, what they can do. two things every person that you meet in life, they need to do before they have a goal or before they have milestones, or if they want to do something big in life, is their willingness and their capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with relationship problems too. Does your mom or your dad at that moment, or your sister or your spouse or your child at that moment in life, when you're dealing with something with him or her, do they have the willingness to hear you, and do they have the capacity? If I'm trying to teach you AP Calc and you haven't gone through geometry, there's two things we have to notice here. Is that as a teacher, am I going to do a good enough job to translate this language into something you'll understand? And as a student, do you have the willingness and capacity to actually understand me? If you don't have this, it doesn't matter how much I yell.
No matter how good of a teacher
I am, we need both of those things for things to translate into success. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So coming back to your question, the transformation will take place because, it is not about information. It is about transformation, life coaching, right? But accountability. Like, I can ask you a question right now that will probably blow your mind and hopefully the viewers, because it's such a simple thing, but it's such a huge problem.
Okay.
And I believe that any business endeavor you take, whether,
What's the question?
The question is, I'm going to come to the question, but before I come to the question, there's an advice I want to give, nasiha I want to give, is that whenever you're pursuing something in life, a goal that you have, or an aspiration, right? You ask yourself, is there a problem, and can I provide the solution? And is it from where I am at right now, from this angle, can I be the one who pushes this, and will it be received, right, from where I am? And what does this mean? It means that people don't really care about anything except if their problems could be solved. Whether you have a life coaching business, or whether you're a doctor, they're not focused. Can you just give me a solution to my problem, is what they want.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? And so the question would be, like, I have one question that I ask people, is like, how many people do you know that have finished the Quran in English from cover to cover?
Wow, 0 probably.
If you were to ask your sister, your brother, your parents, if you were to go extend out to your friend circle, those who don't know Arabic, those who are English speaking Muslims, if you were to go extend that and go to just the community, go to the masjid and ask random brothers, if you were to extend that, go to your neighborhood and knock on doors, all the Muslim families, I guarantee you, I don't have the percentages because we haven't done a study yet, and I would like to do this in the future. But one major problem we have is that English-speaking Muslims have never read the Quran from cover to cover.
Oh, wow.
And most of us will go to our graves without having read the message, the beautiful message of Allah. And that's the problem. What's the solution? Accountability.
Find someone that has read it, or surround yourself with people who have done it.
No, find someone who will, yes, of course, that has read it, obviously, right? Put your money where your mouth is. But who will keep you accountable? So what do we do in our coaching, life coaching? We, alhamdulillah, that's what we're doing. Like, you're
setting the goals with them, and then you're tracking the goals with them.
We're tracking and we're reading with them. You see what I'm saying?
You're accomplishing the goals with them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right. And so that's a very, very big problem with a very simple solution.
Okay.
Right. And now if we move forward to the finances, like I said to you, let's say you want to do something similar. You want to be a coach or something, right? You get your certifications, right? And you do, you work in your community, you find your niche, and you move forward. I'm going to break something down to you, and I want people to know this because, I'll go for benefit for the people, inshallah, right? I, alhamdulillah, have been blessed with networks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ta'arafu, right? What does he say? The whole verse is, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. We have created you in different tribes and nations, and put you into different places and languages and tongues, so that you may get to know one another, right? If you're looking for marriage, you use this ayah from that angle. Interracial marriages. If you're in business, you look at this ayah for networking, right? If you're looking, it depends on which ayah you're looking at this from. But I believe that networking is one of the most important things for a Muslim to do, right? And once you network and you build your skill set, when you have these things, you network, you build your skill set, and then you do all the logistical stuff, the legal stuff that you need to do. You need a product. For example, we have the Clear Quran for kids. That's what I use, right? You have the problem, you have the solution, and I can guarantee you, even if it doesn't take, a weekend of your life or your week, it just takes a very small percentage of your life. You can make a lot of money and you can do a lot of good. For example, I coach only once a week, 1 hour a week.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I have 30 clients. That's because I choose to have 30 clients. Now do the math with me here, and this is for the viewers, inshallah. Okay, if you have everything that I just told you about, a problem, a solution, a product, maybe you write a book or a poem or whatever it is, right? And you sell that, okay, or a program, whatever it is, right? And you've done your job in coaching people in your community before you even started the LLC or business, right? So you already have people that know about you and whatnot. Guess what? If I charge $100 a family, and I have 100 families, and I only meet them once a week, and there's 52 weeks in a year. After having worked only 52 hours, how much would I make?
I think that's what you were saying in the beginning. What was that number?
$120,000.
Okay.
For doing something I love.
And this is something. Yeah, this is like. I read a little bit of this book called Finding Your Element. He says that the fish doesn't know it's swimming in the water, but it's in its element. Like it's so enmeshed in its element that it doesn't know it's in it because it enjoys it. It's swimming in the water. If you put the fish out in outside of the water, then it will notice that the water was my element. So
absolutely,
to you, coaching is the element, and you will help people find their element in your coaching.
Absolutely, this is where I get my fuel. When someone gets a sense of direction in life, and you see that, right, and you understand like how fulfilling that is, because once you're what is it after success, right? What is it? If you're a Muslim, you want to secure your dunya and your deen and your akhirah, right? But imagine if I gave you the option, right? So this is a really weird question, by the way, and I do ask quite weird questions in my life coaching, but would you want to enter Jannah by yourself without anybody else?
Of course not. But
we're talking about paradise here.
Oh, I mean, I was thinking about it because Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. So, I mean, yeah, if I made it by myself, I'm good with that.
Really?
Yeah.
So Adam alayhi salam wasn't?
Oh, he was. Yeah, he asked for companionship. Okay, that's true.
I'm saying that what is it after success? What is it after the nice car?
You want to share it with the people? You want to share with the people around you?
This is one thing that I don't want to say anything negative about the ummah.
Yeah.
But one of the issues I see people having is selfishness, and if I've done it, and if my family's good, we're good to go. That's not the ummatic way of looking at.
That's a very good point, because I said I would be okay with going to heaven by myself, but you pointed out that Adam wasn't even okay with it. He wasn't happy enough. Like he asked Allah for more things, right?
Exactly.
SubhanAllah.
To share it with people.
Yeah.
So I lost one of my best friends, and you know that very well, right?
Yeah.
The VP to NYC, and I'm sure we'll talk about that very soon. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. But when you lose a good friend, it's like losing a whole package. It's like losing a part of your limb. It's like losing a part of yourself. They say that don't count your memories, make your memories count. But it becomes easier to make your memories count when the memories are filled with people who sincerely care about you. They say that people need time to heal. That's why
Allah is saying وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. Because even the people who go to hellfire, they're going in groups.
And you're going to Jannah in groups. So just imagine like you're being separated by those people who've always motivated you, who are your life coach, your professional friend.
That's why your friends will be in hellfire and you'll be in heaven, and you'll ask, Allah will say, is there anything else you want? And you'll say, oh, our friends, in the dunya, can you bring them?
Can you bring them back? It's not the same.
That's a really good point. So you're saying that, a lot of people don't think about this. They don't have this perspective of sharing my happiness, my success with everyone around me.
It's just, these are principles from the Quran and Sunnah. We just try to put it into terms like the Western terms, and we try to mesh things together. At the end of the day, we have the solution from Allah. We have the solution from the Sunnah. We have the Sahaba to teach us. Every single one of them was a life coach in their own right.
Let's stop here. We're going to go ahead and talk about NYCA in the next section. We're just going to take a quick break, okay?
Okay.